Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the tactical display before him. 500 warships spread across the screen like a net of steel and fire. Each vessel carried enough weapons to level a city. Together, they formed the largest hunting fleet the Dominion had assembled in 30 years. All of this power had one single purpose: to catch one human. The commander's clawed hand tightened on the console. His officers waited in silence around him. They knew better than to speak when their leader was angry. "Show me the target again," ordered. The main screen shifted to display an image of a human male. He looked ordinary by human standards. Brown hair, average height, maybe 30 years old. His name appeared below the picture. Occupation, cargo pilot. Current ship, the Dusty Trail, a civilian transport vessel more than 20 years old. One of the junior officers cleared his throat. "Commander, with respect, why do we need 500 warships to capture a single cargo pilot?" Turned slowly, his eyes, dark and cold, fixed on the young officer. "Because this cargo pilot saw something he should not have seen. Because he carries evidence that could destroy everything we have built. Because if he reaches Council space, the Dominion falls." The bridge fell silent again. 3 days earlier had been running a routine supply mission to the neutral world of Pax 7. He had landed at the main settlement, delivered his cargo, and prepared to leave. But his ship's water recycling system had failed, so he flew to one of the planet's natural lakes to refill his tanks. That was when he saw them. Ships, unmarked and operating in stealth mode, dumping containers into the water. Had been a pilot long enough to know when something was wrong. He activated his ship's sensors and began recording. The chemical analysis came back within minutes. They were poisoning the water supply, not enough to kill quickly, but enough to make people sick. Sick enough to need help. Sick enough to accept whatever terms the Dominion offered in exchange for medicine and aid. Had seen enough. He hauled the data to 3 separate drives, then lifted off as quietly as possible. But they had detected his sensors. They knew someone had been watching. Now, floating in the darkness of space, checked his instruments for the 100th time. His ship was not built for running. The Dusty Trail had been a reliable hauler for years, but it was slow. Its shields were basic. Its weapons consisted of one forward laser cannon meant for clearing debris, not fighting warships. Behind him, sensor readings showed the approaching fleet. They were still 3 hours away, but they were coming fast. Had maybe 6 hours before they caught him. Council space was 8 hours away at his current speed. The numbers did not look good. Opened a communication channel. It took a few seconds to connect across the light years to Earth. When the screen finally cleared, his sister Amy's face appeared. "I was just thinking about you. How is the run going?" He smiled, trying to keep his voice steady. "Hey, Amy, just wanted to call and say hi. How is Ben doing?" "He's great, still talking about becoming a pilot like his uncle. He drew another picture of your ship. I will send it to you." "That would be nice." Paused, choosing his words carefully. "Listen, Amy, I need you to know something. You are the best sister anyone could ask for, and I am really proud of Ben. He is going to do great things." Amy's smile faded. "What is wrong? You sound strange." "Nothing is wrong. I just wanted to tell you that I love you. Tell Ben that too." "You are scaring me. What is happening?" "I have to go, Amy. The signal is breaking up. I love you." He ended the call before she could respond. It was better this way. She would understand later when the news reached Earth. Turned his attention back to the navigation console. The route ahead was dangerous. Between his position and Council space lay the Razor Nebula, a massive cloud of gas, dust, and radiation that most pilots avoided. The nebula played havoc with sensors and communication. Ships had been lost in there, vanishing into the dark clouds never to be seen again. But knew the Razor Nebula. He had spent 5 years running cargo through its edges, learning its patterns, mapping its safe routes. Most pilots saw it as a death trap, saw it as home territory. He pulled up his personal navigation charts, overlaying them on the standard maps. There, hidden in the radiation storms and magnetic fields, were dozens of paths only he knew. Asteroid fields that provided cover. Gravity wells that could mask engine signatures. Pockets of space where sensors simply did not work. The fleet was powerful, but they were used to fighting in open space. They relied on their advanced sensors and overwhelming firepower. In the nebula, those advantages would mean less. Checked the evidence files one more time. Images of the ships dumping poison. chemical analysis showing exactly what toxins they had used, communication intercepts proving the operation had been ordered by Dominion leadership. Everything was backed up and encrypted. This information could not be lost. The people of Pax 7 deserved justice. The galaxy needed to know what they were doing. His hands moved across the controls, plotting a course into the deepest part of the nebula. The route was insane. It would take him through radiation levels that could kill him if his shields failed, through asteroid fields so dense that one mistake meant death, through magnetic storms that would scramble every instrument he had. But it was the only way. On his tactical screen, the fleet began to spread out. They were forming a net pattern, trying to cover every possible escape route. Was smart. He knew would try to run. Allowed himself a small smile. The commander thought he understood the situation. He thought overwhelming force would be enough. He thought one human in an old cargo ship would surrender when faced with impossible odds. But did not understand humans very well. His father had been a pilot too, back in the early days of human space exploration. He had taught to fly when he was 12 years old, remembered his words clearly. "Son, men do not run from what is right. We run toward it. And if anyone tries to stop us, well, they better be ready for a long chase." Engaged his engines and turned toward the Razor Nebula. The dusty trail accelerated, heading straight into the swirling clouds of gas and radiation. Behind him, alarms began sounding on every ship as they detected his course change. His voice boomed across the command channel, ordering all vessels to pursue. 500 warships turned as one and followed the single cargo hauler into the nebula. Reached the outer edge of the cloud and cut his main power. The ship went dark, disappearing through the Razor Nebula was beautiful in a deadly sort of way. Clouds of purple and blue gas swirled through the darkness, lit by distant stars. Lightning storms crackled between patches of charged particles. Asteroids tumbled slowly through the void, silent and ancient. Drifted through this chaos with his engines off, watching his instruments carefully. The radiation levels were high but not deadly yet. His shields were holding. Most importantly, his sensors showed no ships nearby. They were out there, though. He could see them on long-range scans when the interference cleared for a few seconds. Dozens of warships spreading through the nebula, searching. They moved in careful patterns, sweeping the area section by section. Commander was being methodical, smart, but also predictable. Waited until a patrol of 3 destroyers passed 2 kilometers to his left. They never saw him. The dusty trail was small and cold, just another piece of debris among thousands. When they were gone, he fired his maneuvering thrusters for exactly 3 seconds, changing his trajectory. Then he went dark again. On the flagship, stared at his screens with growing frustration. His fleet had been searching for 6 hours. They had found nothing. No engine signatures, no heat blooms, no communication signals. The human had simply vanished. "Deploy the Hunter drones," he ordered. 2,000 units. I want every cubic meter of this nebula scanned. The drones launched from their carriers, small automated craft designed to search areas too dangerous for crewed ships. They spread through the nebula like a swarm of insects, their sensors probing the darkness. Saw them coming on his passive sensors. Thousands of contacts moving fast. They would find him eventually. The drones were too many, too thorough. He needed to move, but where? His fingers danced across the navigation console, pulling up his personal charts. There, an asteroid field about 30 kilometers ahead, dense enough to hide in but with channels he could navigate, though would have trouble following him in there. Waited until a gap appeared in the drone coverage. Then he fired his engines for a 10-second burn, heading for the asteroids at full thrust. It was a risk. The engine flare would show up on every sensor in range, but he was counting on the nebula's interference to scatter the signal. It almost worked. 3 Hunter drones detected the flare and turned to investigate. They accelerated toward his last known position, their scanners active and searching. Cut his engines and rolled the ship, using a small thruster burst to send him tumbling toward a large asteroid. He matched its rotation, coming alongside the massive rock. The dusty trail's magnetic clamps engaged, locking onto the iron-rich surface. Now his ship was attached to the asteroid, spinning with it. To any sensor, they would look like one object, just another tumbling rock in a field of thousands. The 3 drones arrived 30 seconds later, held his breath watching them on his screens. They circled his position, scanning. Their searchlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the asteroid's pitted surface. One drone came within 50 meters. Its lights swept across the dusty trail's hull. His hand hovered over the weapon's control. If they detected him now, he would have to fight, and fighting meant dying. The drone moved on. All three of them continued their search pattern, drifting away into the asteroid field. Allowed himself to breathe again. Over the next 4 hours, played a deadly game of hide and seek with the fleet. He used every trick he knew. When cornered by a patrol, he hid inside a hollowed-out asteroid, his ship barely fitting in the narrow cave. When drones swept an area, he attached magnetic decoys to passing rocks, sending false signals in random directions. He found an old derelict freighter, its hull cracked open and its crew long dead. He maneuvered the dusty trail inside, hiding within the wreckage. 3 cruisers passed within visual range and never saw him. But the most effective trick came from simple human ingenuity. Took his emergency flare launchers, the kind meant to signal for rescue, and modified them. He programmed each flare to activate on a timer, then attached small thruster packs from his spare parts locker. The result was crude but functional. Decoy beacons that would fly off in random directions, broadcasting signals that looked like engine signatures. He launched 20 of them over the next hour, sending them into different parts of the nebula. The response was immediate. Warships broke formation to investigate each signal. Patrols chased false leads for hours. His careful search pattern fell apart as ships raced after ghosts. Used the confusion to move deeper into the nebula, always staying ahead of the net. On the flagship bridge, slammed his fist on the console. How is he doing this? He is one pilot in a cargo ship. We have 500 warships and 2,000 drones. His tactical officer studied the reports. Commander, the human appears to have extensive knowledge of this nebula. He is using the terrain against us. Our sensors are compromised by the radiation. He is not. Then adapt, compensate for the interference. We are trying, Commander, but he keeps finding new ways to hide. The decoy signals alone have cost us 12 hours of search time. His eyes narrowed. He is making us look like fools. Yes, Commander, he is. Checked his fuel levels. 38% remaining. Not good. The constant maneuvering and course changes were eating through his reserves faster than planned. He needed to reach the nebula's far edge within the next 6 hours, or he would be stranded. He was studying his navigation charts when something caught his attention. 2 destroyers were on an intercept course, closing fast from opposite directions. They had him boxed in. His mind raced. He could not outrun them. His weapons were no match for their shields, and there was nowhere to hide in this section of the nebula. Then he saw it. The 2 destroyers were going to pass close to each other, their shields almost touching as they converged on his position. Their commanders were so focused on catching him that they had not noticed how close they would come to each other. Smiled. Sometimes the best hiding place was right in plain sight. He fired his engines to maximum, accelerating directly toward the point where the 2 ships would meet. Every alarm in his cockpit screamed at him. The tactical computer said he was committing suicide. The commanders saw his move too late. They were already committed to their course, pushed his ship to the edge of its limits, the hull groaning under the strain. At the last possible second, he killed his forward thrust and fired every maneuvering jet he had. The dusty trail spun wildly, bleeding off speed. Threaded the needle between the 2 destroyers, so close that their shield fields crackled against his hull. For one eternal moment, he was between them, invisible to their sensors because their own shields were blocking the view. They were looking for him ahead and behind, never thinking he would be right between their ships. Then he was through, engines firing again, racing away into the nebula while the 2 destroyers tried to figure out where he had gone. Laughed, he could not help it. The fear, the tension, it all came out in a moment of pure relief. He had just flown between 2 warships traveling at combat speed. That story would sound made up if he ever told it. But the laughter died quickly. His sensors showed new contacts ahead, lots of them. They had stopped searching and started thinking. They were setting up a blockade at the nebula's far edge. His path to Council space was about to get much more difficult. He checked his fuel again. 26%. His ship's structural integrity had dropped to 68% from all the hard maneuvering. His life support was showing yellow warnings. And ahead, 200 warships were forming a wall he would have to somehow break through. Pulled up the tactical display and studied the blockade formation. It was perfect, overlapping fields of fire, sensor coverage with no gaps, ships positioned to support each other. Whoever designed this pattern knew what they were doing. He had maybe 30 minutes before the rest of the fleet arrived behind him, trapping him between the hammer and the anvil. 30 minutes to find a way through an impossible blockade. Cracked his knuckles and got to work. There had to be a solution. There was always a solution. Humans did not give up just because the odds looked bad. They got creative. He began running calculations, testing possibilities, looking for any weakness in the formation. They had made their wall perfect by their military standards. But military standards meant following doctrine, following rules, being predictable. And predictable meant vulnerable. Found what he was looking for buried in the formation analysis. A pattern, a rhythm, a tiny window of opportunity that would exist for maybe 3 seconds if he timed everything perfectly. It was insane, it would probably kill him, but it was the only chance he had. Stared at the blockade through his viewport. 200 warships hung in space like a wall of metal and death. Their weapons were armed. Their shields glowed with contained energy. Every sensor array was pointed in his direction. Behind him, the rest of the fleet was closing in. He could see them on his rear sensors, spreading out to make sure he had no escape route back into the nebula. They had him boxed in perfectly. The communication channel crackled to life. Commander's voice filled the cockpit. "This is Commander of the Dominion. You have led us on an impressive chase, but it ends now. Surrender the evidence you carry and your life will be spared. You have my word." Almost laughed. The word of someone who poisoned innocent people meant nothing, but he opened his own comm channel anyway. "Commander, I have a question for you. Why did you need 500 warships to catch one cargo pilot? If I am so insignificant, why all this effort?" There was silence for a moment, then responded. "You know why. You carry information that threatens the Dominion." "No," said. "I carry the truth. Big difference. You are afraid of it because your whole empire is built on lies and fear. Well, here is another truth for you. I am going through your blockade, and there is nothing you can do to stop me. You are insane. You cannot possibly believe you can break through our formation. Watch me." Cut the channel and focused on his instruments. His plan was simple in concept, but nearly impossible in execution. The blockade was perfect because they followed their military doctrine exactly. Every ship was positioned according to their standard defensive pattern. Overlapping shields, coordinated firing zones, by the book. But had noticed something during his years of flying. When ships created overlapping shield fields, there were tiny moments when the harmonics interfered with each other. Brief windows where the shields flickered. Lasted maybe a fraction of a second. Most scanners would miss it entirely. Scanner was not most scanners. He had modified it himself to detect exactly these kinds of interference patterns. He used it to find safe routes through debris fields where magnetic storms could tear a ship apart. Now he was betting his life that the same principle worked with military shields. He began dumping mass. Everything not essential went out the airlock. Extra supplies, spare parts, even his backup life support system. The dusty trail needed to be as light and fast as possible for what came next. Next, he rerouted power. Life support dropped to minimum. Weapons systems went offline. Every ounce of energy went to engines and forward shields. The ship would become a missile. One chance, one run. His hands flew across the controls, programming a series of maneuvers into the autopilot. The timing had to be perfect down to the millisecond. If he was even slightly off, he would fly straight into a shield wall traveling at maximum speed. The impact would vaporize him instantly. He double-checked his calculations, then checked them again. The math was solid, the physics worked, in theory. Theory did not always survive contact with reality. Took a deep breath and opened the comm channel one more time. This time he broadcast to every ship in range. "You sent 500 warships for one human in an old cargo hauler. You deployed hunter drones and set up blockades. You chased me through a nebula for hours. And you know what that tells me? It tells me you are afraid. You are afraid because you know that truth is more powerful than all your weapons combined. You are afraid because deep down, you know what you did was wrong. And you are afraid because I am about to prove that no amount of force can stop someone who refuses to stay silent." The response was immediate. Energy weapons lit up the darkness as they opened fire. Hundreds of laser beams and plasma bolts converged on his position, but was already moving. He fired his engines to maximum burn, the acceleration pressing him back into his seat hard enough to hurt. The dusty trail shot forward like a bullet, racing toward the blockade at speeds the old ship was never designed to reach. The weapon's fire filled the space behind him. They were shooting where he had been, not where he was going. By the time their targeting systems adjusted, was already too close. Warning alarms screamed in his cockpit. The tactical display showed he was on a collision course with at least 6 warships. His shields were holding, but barely. Hull temperature was climbing into the red zone. Gripped the controls and watched his instruments. Not yet, not yet. The shield harmonics appeared on his scanner, exactly where his calculations predicted. 3 interference points forming a straight line through the blockade. Each one would last for 2.8 seconds before closing. He had to thread through all 3 in sequence without slowing down. "Here we go," whispered. The first interference window opened, rolled the ship 30 degrees and adjusted his angle by half a degree. The dusty trail slipped through the gap between 2 cruisers, their shields flickering as he passed. Weapons fire from both ships converged on his position but hit each other's shields instead. The second window opened, cut his main engines and fired his lateral thrusters, sliding sideways through a gap between a destroyer and a battleship. He was so close he could see their hull plating through his viewport. Energy bolts scorched his shields but did not penetrate. The third window appeared ahead. This one was. 2 battleships had positioned themselves with less than 50 meters between their shield fields. The interference pattern was there but weaker. His shields would have to punch through the overlap. Rerouted all remaining power to forward shields and fired his engines again. The ship groaned under the strain. Metal screamed. Warning lights covered his console like stars. The dusty trail hit the overlap at full speed. For one terrible moment, everything went white. Shields collapsed. Energy feedback surged through his systems. Panels exploded in showers of sparks. The main computer went offline. Then he was through. Tumbled out the other side of the blockade, trailing debris and venting atmosphere from 3 hull breaches. His engines were damaged but still firing. His life support was critical. His weapons were gone. His shields would not recharge. But he was through the blockade. Behind him, the formation was in chaos. Ships were trying to turn and pursue, but they were too close together. 2 destroyers clipped each other's shields and went spinning off course. Others were blocking each other's firing solutions. His voice came through the damaged comm system, distorted by static. "All ships, abandon formation, pursue that human, maximum speed, I want him dead." The entire fleet broke apart and gave chase. 500 warships, no longer coordinated, no longer following doctrine. Just an angry mob racing after one cargo pilot. Checked his navigation. Council space was 90 minutes away at current speed. His fuel read 7%. Structural integrity was at 21%. He had fires burning in 2 compartments and no way to put them out. He was not going to make it. Pulled up the evidence files one more time. Images of the poisoning Pack 7's water, chemical analysis, communication intercepts, everything the galaxy needed to know. He encrypted the files with his personal code and set them to broadcast on all frequencies when he reached communication range of Council space. Even if they destroyed his ship, the information would survive. Then his engines failed. The main drive went offline with a shudder that shook the entire ship. Tried to restart it, but the controls were dead. Secondary systems were failing fast. He was losing power everywhere. The dusty trail began to drift, momentum carrying it forward, but slowing with each passing second. Sealed himself in the cockpit as another hull section breached. His suit's oxygen tank showed 40 minutes of air remaining, not enough to reach Council space, not even close. The fleet was closing fast. They would be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes. He had done everything he could. The evidence was encrypted and ready to broadcast. His sister would understand why he did this. Ben would grow up knowing his uncle had stood for something that mattered. It was enough. Then his proximity alarm blinked, opened his eyes and checked his sensors. There was a ship ahead, not. The transponder code identified it as human, Council military. CSS Nevada, light cruiser on routine border patrol. His hand shot to the communication panel. He had just enough power for one transmission. He opened a channel and broadcast everything he had. The Mayday, the evidence files, his identity, the approaching fleet. This is of the civilian transport Dusty Trail. I am transmitting evidence of war crimes. They poisoned a neutral world to force an alliance. I have proof. 500 warships are pursuing me. If anyone receives this, make sure the galaxy knows the truth. Out. The transmission went out on all frequencies, spreading across space at the speed of light. Watched his screens and waited. The Nevada was changing course, turning toward him. Behind him, the fleet was 3 minutes away. He had done all he could. Now it was up to others to finish the job. Captain Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of the CSS Nevada, watching the tactical display with growing concern. Her sensor officer had just picked up a distress signal. Human signature, civilian ship, and behind it, an entire fleet of warships moving at attack speed. Confirm that reading, Lisa ordered. 500 ships. Confirmed, Captain. I am reading 498 warships plus support vessels. They are all pursuing one target. A civilian cargo hauler. Transponder identifies it as the Dusty Trail. Lisa knew that name. Every human pilot in this sector knew the Dusty Trail. Ran supplies through the Razor Nebula, one of the few pilots crazy enough to take that route regularly. Good man, honest, not the type to attract this kind of attention. What did he do to make that angry? Her communication officer looked up. Captain, I am receiving a data transmission from the Dusty Trail. It is tagged as evidence files, priority level maximum. Put it on my screen. Lisa watched the files scroll past. Images of ships, chemical analysis reports, communication intercepts. She had seen enough classified intelligence reports to recognize what she was looking at. This was proof of war crimes that had poisoned a neutral world. Get me Admiral at Council headquarters, right now, and broadcast these files to every Council ship in range. Her crew moved fast. Within seconds, the evidence was spreading across the quantum communication network. Every Council station, every patrol ship, every diplomatic outpost would have it within minutes. Lisa turned to her helm officer. Set intercept course for the Dusty Trail, maximum speed, battle stations. Alarms began to sound throughout the ship. The Nevada was a light cruiser built for patrol and escort duty. It carried enough weapons to handle pirates or raiders, but 500 warships, that was suicide. Her first officer stepped close. Captain, we cannot fight that fleet. We will be destroyed. I know, Lisa said quietly, but that pilot out there just risked everything to expose a war crime. I am not going to leave him to die alone. Plot the intercept. The Nevada turned and accelerated, racing toward the drifting cargo hauler. Watched the approaching ship through his cracked viewport. The Nevada was beautiful, clean lines, fresh paint, proper military vessel, unlike his battered old hauler. He could see weapon turrets tracking toward the fleet. The ship was small by warship standards, but it looked like a fortress compared to the Dusty Trail. His radio crackled. Dusty Trail, this is Captain Lisa Grant of the CSS Nevada. We received your transmission. Help is on the way. Can you hear me? Activated his comm with numb fingers. His oxygen was running low. The cold was seeping into his bones. I hear you, Nevada. Thanks for coming, but you should run. That fleet will kill you. Let us worry about that. How badly are you damaged? Life support is gone. Hull breaches in multiple sections. Engines are dead. I have maybe 20 minutes of oxygen left. We are sending a rescue shuttle. Hold on. Almost laughed, hold on, as if he had a choice. His ship was a wreck held together by hope and stubbornness, but he was alive. That was more than he expected 10 minutes ago. The Nevada positioned itself between drifting ship and the approaching fleet. A small shuttle detached from the cruiser and flew toward the Dusty Trail. Commander watched this development with cold satisfaction. The human thought rescue was coming. He thought the Council ship would save him. Foolish. Hail the Council vessel, ordered. The Nevada's bridge appeared on his screen. A human female wearing a captain's uniform stared back at him. This is Commander of the Dominion. The human you are protecting is a criminal. He has stolen classified information and fled Dominion space. Return him to us immediately. Captain Lisa's expression did not change. Commander, that pilot is under Council protection now. If you want to file charges, you can do so through proper diplomatic channels. Until then, back off. You dare threaten the Dominion with one ship. I am not threatening anyone. I am informing you that is under Council jurisdiction. If you attack, you will be starting a war. His claws scraped against his console. One ship cannot stop this fleet. Maybe not, but that one ship will be transmitting combat footage to every Council outpost in range. Your government will have to explain why you attacked a Council vessel to protect evidence of war crimes. Is that really the fight you want? The commander's eyes narrowed. What evidence? The evidence transmitted. The proof that the Dominion poisoned the water supply of Pack 7. It has already been forwarded to Council headquarters. By now, probably every major news network in the galaxy has a copy. Felt something cold settle in his chest. That is impossible. Check your own intelligence networks. The story is everywhere. The images of your ships dumping poison, the chemical analysis, the intercepted orders from Dominion Command, all of it, public knowledge now. The commander turned to his communication officer, who was already pulling up galactic news feeds. His face went pale. The story was everywhere. Headlines scrolled across dozens of networks. Images of ships appeared on every major outlet. Analysis from experts. Interviews with officials from Pack 7. The Council was already calling for an emergency session. It was a disaster. Everything they had tried to hide was now exposed. Looked back at the screen where Captain Lisa waited. This changes nothing. The human still dies. Then you will have to go through me first. The channel closed. Lisa turned to her crew. Get that shuttle back here with the pilot and prepare for combat. This is going to get messy. The rescue shuttle had already docked with the dusty trail. Medical Officer Jake Harrison moved through the damaged cargo hauler quickly, following the life signs on his scanner. He found sealed in the cockpit, barely conscious. Got you, Jake said, breaking open the door. He attached an emergency oxygen mask to his face and checked his vital signs. Hypothermia, some radiation exposure. Bruised ribs, maybe a punctured lung, but alive. Did the files get through? His voice was weak, muffled by the mask. They got through. You are all over the news. Every channel in the galaxy is talking about what you found. Eyes closed. Good, that is good. Jake lifted him onto a stretcher. Come on, hero. Let us get you to a real medical bay. They made it back to the Nevada with 30 seconds of oxygen to spare in its tank. The shuttle docked, and Jake rushed to the medical bay while the ship prepared for combat. Lisa watched the fleet on her screens. They had not moved yet, was probably trying to figure out what to do. The evidence was already public. Killing now would not change that. But the commander had chased this pilot across half the sector. Pride and anger would not let him back down easily. Her sensor officer spoke up. Captain, I am detecting multiple jump signatures, Council ships entering the area. Lisa allowed herself to breathe. How many? 20 vessels so far, more incoming. It looks like Admiral sent everything in range. Council warships began dropping out of hyperspace around the Nevada. Destroyers, cruisers, even a battleship. They formed a defensive line around the damaged cargo hauler. The fleet finally began to withdraw, slowly at first, then faster as more Council ships arrived. Knew when he was beaten. Starting a war over one pilot was not worth it, not when the evidence was already public. Lisa opened a channel to the retreating flagship. Commander, if you want, come get him through proper channels. File your charges, present your case, do it legally. Did not respond. His fleet jumped to hyperspace, disappearing in flashes of light. The bridge crew cheered. They had faced down 500 warships and won without firing a shot. Lisa went down to the medical bay to check on their guest. She found awake, breathing through an oxygen tube while Jake worked on his injuries. How is he? Lisa asked. He will live. Broken ribs, some lung damage, mild radiation poisoning. Nothing that will not heal. Give him a few weeks and he will be flying again. Looked up at Lisa. My ship, did it survive? The dusty trail is pretty much scrap metal. Sorry. I figured she was a good ship. Got me through when it mattered. Lisa pulled up a chair. You just caused the biggest diplomatic incident in 20 years. The Council is demanding answers from the Dominion. Several other worlds have come forward with similar stories of intimidation. You might have just prevented a war. I just wanted people to know the truth. Well, they know now. Every major government is calling for investigations. The Dominion leadership is being questioned, and you are being called a hero. Shook his head. I am not a hero. I am just a cargo pilot who saw something wrong and could not stay quiet. That is exactly what makes you a hero. Jake finished treating injuries and left them alone. Lisa stayed, telling what happened while he was running for his life. The evidence had reached council headquarters within minutes of transmission. The media had picked it up immediately. Public outrage was forcing governments to act. They are going to want to interview you, Lisa said. Give you medals probably, make speeches about your courage. I do not want any of that. I figured you would say that, but what you did matters. You made a difference. People will remember this. Closed his eyes. I just want to go home, see my sister, hug my nephew, get back to flying cargo. After what you just did, good luck staying anonymous. Through the viewport, Earth hung in the distance. Blue and white and beautiful, had not been sure he would ever see it again. But he had made it. Against impossible odds, he had survived. 3 months had passed since became the most famous pilot in the galaxy. The story of how one human outran 500 warships had spread everywhere. News networks replayed his transmission constantly. People called him the hero who exposed the conspiracy. Hated every minute of it. He stood in the hangar bay of the New Denver spaceport, watching crews load cargo containers. His old ship, the Dusty Trail, was gone. They had put what was left of it in a museum. People paid to see the battered hull, the scorched cockpit where he had nearly died. Refused to visit. That ship had been his home, his livelihood. Seeing it displayed like a trophy felt wrong. Uncle. He turned to see his nephew Ben running across the hangar floor. The boy was 12 now, growing tall and fast. Behind him walked Amy's sister, carrying lunch bags. Should not run in the hangar, called out. Safety rules. Ben slowed down, but his excitement did not fade. Did you see the news? They are talking about you again. The council officially sanctioned the Dominion. 5 worlds have broken their alliance agreements. I saw. Amy reached them and handed a sandwich. You could sound more excited. You changed galactic politics. I just flew my ship and told the truth. Other people did the hard work. Stop being modest. What you did was incredible. Unwrapped his sandwich and looked out at the busy spaceport. Ships coming and going. Pilots checking their flight plans. Normal work, the kind he understood. The kind he wanted to get back to. But everything had changed. Corporations offered him consulting contracts worth millions. The military wanted him to train pilots. Media companies begged for exclusive interviews. Everyone wanted a piece of the hero. Had turned them all down. He took a job as ground crew, loading cargo and checking ships for safety. The pay was terrible compared to what he could make, but it kept him close to the work he loved without the attention. When are you going to fly again? Ben asked. You are the best pilot in the galaxy. You should be out there, not stuck on the ground. Maybe soon. Need to finish some things first. The truth was afraid to fly, not of dying or danger. He had faced that and survived. But every time he considered taking a ship up, he imagined reporters following him. People asking for autographs. The quiet piece of space ruined by fame. Amy saw through his excuse. She always did. You cannot hide forever. What happened to the man who flew through 500 warships because it was the right thing to do? That man got his ship destroyed and almost died. Maybe he learned to be more careful. Or maybe he is scared of something besides warships. Did not answer. His sister was right as usual, but admitting fear felt like weakness. Ben pulled out his tablet and showed the screen. Look at this. 5 more people came forward this week with evidence against corrupt governments. They all said you inspired them. A woman on Tau Station exposed illegal mining operations. A dock worker revealed weapons smuggling. They are calling it the effect. Looked at the stories. Regular people just like him who saw something wrong and spoke up. Some of them were in hiding now. Others faced threats. All of them risked everything for truth. They are braver than me, said quietly. No, Amy corrected. They are brave because of you. You showed them it was possible. A chime sounded on his work tablet. New message, priority flag. He opened it and read quickly. His expression went cold. What is wrong? Amy asked. Intelligence warning. Commander escaped from custody 3 days ago. They think he is in human space. The commander who chased you. Yeah, they are offering protective custody. Want me to go into hiding until they catch him. Ben's eyes went wide. Are you going to do it? Looked at his nephew, at his sister, at the busy spaceport around them. He had spent 3 months trying to disappear into normal life, trying to be invisible again, but some things could not be undone. Some choices changed everything. No, said, I am not hiding. If he comes, he comes. I will deal with it. Be reasonable, Amy started. I am being reasonable. I spent months running from that fleet. I am not going to spend the rest of my life running from fear. Besides, does not scare me anymore. That was not entirely true. The commander was dangerous, but had learned something during his chase through the nebula. Fear only won if you let it control you. Once you accepted the risk and kept moving anyway, fear lost its power. 2 days later was working late in the hangar when the alarms went off. Security breach. Sector 7, his sector. He reached for his comm unit, but it was dead. Someone had jammed the signals, grabbed a wrench from his tool belt and moved toward the emergency exit. The lights went out. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in red. A figure stepped from the shadows, tall, armored, carrying a weapon, military gear, commander. The commander said, his voice was rough, angry. You destroyed everything I built, my career, my reputation, my honor. Kept the wrench in his hand, but did not raise it. You destroyed it yourself when you poisoned innocent people. I just made sure everyone knew. I followed orders. I served my government. You murdered children, families, people who trusted you. Following orders does not make it right. Raised his weapon. It was a plasma rifle, military grade. One shot would kill instantly. I came here to make you pay, to take back some measure of honor. By killing an unarmed cargo worker, that is your honor. You humiliated me. 500 ships could not catch you. The entire Dominion knows I failed. Slowly set down his wrench. He stood straight, meeting the commander's eyes. You want to know why you failed? It was not because I am special. It was not because humans are somehow superior. You failed because you were fighting to hide the truth. I was fighting to protect it. Truth is stronger than any fleet. Pull that trigger and it does not change what the galaxy knows now. It will make me feel better. Will it, or will you spend the rest of your life knowing you proved me right? That violence is all you have left. His hand shook slightly. The weapon stayed pointed at its chest. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Security forces burst into the hangar, weapons drawn. They had responded to the alarm. Captain Lisa Grant was with them, having arrived on Earth for a diplomatic meeting. Commander, Lisa called out, lower your weapon, you are surrounded. The commander did not look away from. This human took everything from me. No, said quietly. You did that yourself. I just showed the galaxy who you really were. You can kill me, but there are millions more humans who will do what I did. Billions of people across the galaxy who will not stay silent anymore. You cannot shoot all of us. The weapon lowered slowly, looked around at the security forces, at Lisa, at standing unarmed and unafraid. The fight went out of him. He dropped the rifle and raised his hands. Security took him away. Lisa approached, checking to make sure he was unhurt. You okay? Yeah, just tired of all this. That was either very brave or very stupid, talking to him like that. Probably both, but I meant what I said. I am not living in fear. Lisa smiled. You know, the council has been asking about you. They want to establish a witness protection program, call it the protocol, help people who expose corruption stay safe. That is good. People should not have to face this alone. They want you to help design it, use your experience. Considered that, it was not flying cargo, but it was important work, and it kept him connected to the thing that mattered, protecting people who stood up for truth. I will think about it. 2 weeks later, stood in a shipyard looking at a new cargo hauler. It was not fancy, not fast, just a solid, reliable ship for running supplies. The registration papers said Dusty Trail II. Amy and Ben stood with him, watching crews do the final checks. You are really going back out there? Amy asked. I am a pilot, it is what I do. What about the protocol, the council job? I can do both, help set up the program, then get back to flying. There are still goods to deliver, routes to run. The galaxy does not stop moving just because I got famous for 5 minutes. Ben grinned. Can I come with you sometime when I am older? If you train hard and get your license, maybe. But it is not all adventure and excitement. Mostly it is boring cargo runs and paperwork. I do not care, I want to be like you. Put his hand on his nephew's shoulder. Then be better than me, be smarter, be kinder, and when you see something wrong, speak up, but do not be stupid about it like I was. You saved lives, uncle, that is not stupid. Maybe it was not, was still processing everything that happened. The chase, the near-death experience, the aftermath. He had gone from anonymous cargo pilot to galactic figure overnight, but underneath it all he was still the same person who liked flying alone through space, who valued quiet over fame. The difference was, now he understood something he had not before. One person really could make a difference, not through violence or power, but through simple courage, through refusing to stay silent when silence meant more people would suffer. Captain Lisa arrived at the shipyard carrying official documents. The council voted this morning. The protocol is officially established. They want you to testify at the first hearing next month. What is the hearing about? From the corporation. She exposed illegal medical experiments, said your story gave her courage to come forward. Looked at the documents, more stories like his, more people choosing truth over safety. The ripple effect kept spreading. Tell her I will be there. He signed the papers and handed them back. Lisa smiled. You know, you are not very good at staying invisible. Apparently not, but I'm going to keep trying. The dusty trail I was ready, said goodbye to his family and boarded the ship. The cockpit smelled new clean. He missed the old worn seats and familiar controls of his original ship, but this one would do. He would make it his own over time. Ran through his pre-flight checklist. Everything looked good. He requested clearance from the control tower and received immediate approval. Apparently being famous had some advantages. Usually he waited hours for launch clearance. The ship lifted off smoothly, rising through Earth's atmosphere. Watched the planet fall away below him, the curve of the horizon spreading out in all directions. The sky darkened from blue to black. Stars appeared. He plotted a course for the outer colonies. Simple cargo run, medical supplies and spare parts, nothing exciting, exactly what he wanted. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, leaned back in his seat. The universe stretched out before him, infinite and full of possibilities. Somewhere out there, people were facing the same choice he had faced. Stand up or stay silent, risk everything or play it safe. He hoped they would be brave, hoped they would choose truth even when it was hard, because the galaxy needed people like that, people who refused to look away, people who ran toward what was right, not away from it. Was just a cargo pilot, always had been, always would be. But he had learned something important during his impossible chase. Sometimes being ordinary was exactly enough to change everything. 500 warships had tried to stop him. They failed, not because he was special, but because he believed in something worth fighting for. That lesson would stay with him forever, and maybe, just maybe, it would inspire others to stand up when their moment came. The ship flew on through the darkness, one small light moving through an infinite sea of stars. Unseen, unknown, but carrying hope to places that needed it most. That was enough. That was everything. And more importantly, the truth had survived with him. That was all that mattered. The cockpit fell silent except for the hiss of escaping air and the crackle of damaged electronics. Looked out at the stars and smiled. They had sent 500 warships to stop him. They had failed. Sometimes one person really could change everything. Powered up his engines and turned toward the blockade. Council space lay beyond that wall of warships. Safety, justice, truth. He was going through sensors. He drifted on momentum into the swirling darkness, becoming a ghost in the storm. The hunt had begun. An ordinary cargo pilot was about to show the Dominion why you never underestimate a human who knows he is right. The nebula swallowed him whole, and somewhere in its depths he smiled.